Greetings and salutations, my fellow YouTubers. Once again, this is AP Darkness 905. First off, I'd like to take a moment to apologize to all of you for the poor quality of the audio in this particular presentation because, well, the microphone I'm using is not the best one available on the market. I have limited funds and I have to take what I can afford, really. And so you'll just have to bear with me on this one, I'm sorry to say. But onto the subject at hand, and today's video is about my review of It, Chapter 1, and my Dreamcast for Chapter 2. Now, I suppose at least a few of you out there are wondering, why do a Dreamcast and a review in the same video? Well, I was planning on doing videos for each of those subjects, and I thought, well, why not just cut out the middleman and splice two of them together? Save some time. So, with that said, let's move on to the first portion of this video, which is the review. Now, bear in mind, this is actually the first time I've ever done anything like this. I've never done a review of, well, anything before, really. I mean, and so I apologize to everyone that this is not exactly the best review out there. I mean, I'm pretty much new to this, and I'm kind of feeling my way along as I go, and also based it somewhat on what I've seen other people do. But, you know, it's unlikely that this review is going to be, you know, spick and span perfect. But, having said that, let's basically begin, shall we? And dive into the murky waters of It. I'll start off by saying that the 2017 version of the story shifts from the 1950s setting of the novel to the late 80s, and also makes a few other alterations and basically takes some liberties with artistic license. But overall, the plot is more or less the same, where in the small town of Derry, Maine, children start going missing, basically vanishing without a trace. And it also becomes clear that something sinister is hanging over the town of Derry. And this all begins when basically Bill Denbrough makes a paper boat for his little brother Georgie so he can go out and play in the rain. He can't go out and play with him because he's sick in bed. And so his little brother goes out. The trouble starts when he can't keep up with the boat, and it ends up being flushed down a storm drain. And there, he encounters Pennywise, the dancing clown, who offers Georgie his boat back. And when Georgie reaches for the boat, the clown promptly bites his arm off and then drags him down to the sewers, never to be seen or heard from again. And that is where the insanity begins. And over the course of the summer, the story focuses on a group of outcast kids who live in the town of Derry, known as the Losers Club. And the members of the Losers Club are, of course, Bill, who is arguably the leader of the group. And then there's Richie Tozer, I think I'll get his last name right, who's kind of the class clown of the gang. And then there's Eddie Kasprak, who's something of a hypochondriac, largely due to his mother's Munchausen syndrome and overprotectiveness. But let's just say that this kid has got some real issues when it comes to germs. And then there's Stan Uris, who suffers from OCD and is kind of like the, in a lot of ways, the anal member of the group. Then there's Ben Hanscom, who's recently moved to Derry. He's actually one of the newcomers to the group, together with Beverly Marsh, who's actually the only girl in this little gang. And last but not least, there's Mike Hanlon. And together, these kids make up the 7 members of the Losers Club. And over the course of the summer, all of them have terrifying encounters with Pennywise, and they soon realize after sharing their stories that this clown is much more than he seems. And in fact, that Pennywise is in fact just one of many forms assumed by an ancient evil entity that the kids dub as It. And combining information, they discover that this creature is not only responsible for the disappearances of all the kids in town, but they also discover that this creature hibernates most of the time and reemerges every 27 years, to basically feed the populace of Derry, particularly the children population. They also discover that the creature can be found in an abandoned house on Nearbolt Street. As Bill says, that's where it lives. And so the Losers Club go there, and Bill, Eddie, and Richie enter the house, and each of them have terrifying encounters with Pennywise, who almost kills all three of them, but is stopped when the other members of the Losers Club enter the house, and Beverly impales the clown through the head with a fence spike. And the creature is forced to retreat back down into the sewers, and the Losers Club flee the house with Eddie suffering a broken arm and Ben a slashed stomach. And the encounter pretty much causes the group to break apart. They pretty much splinter after that. But they're forced to come back together when Beverly is abducted by It. And I suspect this is actually an act of revenge on Pennywise's part. I mean, after all, she did stab him through the head. And so, anyway, the kids come back together, and they return to the Nearbolt house. And there, Mike is attacked by the local bully, Henry Bowers, who at this point is actually under its influence. And I think it's fair to say he's lost what little sanity he has. He has just gone to the land of crazy. He has, he is completely insane at this point. And a tense struggle between Bowers and Mike ensues, in which Mike ends up getting the upper hand and shoves Bowers down a well, apparently killing him. Maybe. We'll see what happens in the next movie. I'm not sure what can happen to Bowers, but it'll be interesting to see where they go with this. And then Beverly regains consciousness in what she discovers to be the heart of its lair, and in the middle of which there's this huge monument crafted from trophies taken from all of its past victims. And around this massive edifice, there's all the victims from its latest feeding cycle. And so this whole scene is absolutely really spectacular. It's actually one of the most incredible visuals in the whole movie. And shortly after that, Pennywise attacks Beverly, but he's unable to kill her because she isn't afraid of him, and as he feeds on fear, this is a problem. So instead, he reveals his deadlights to her, which actually has the effect of hypnotizing Beverly into a trance, and the rest of the club find her floating what looks like about 8 to 9 feet off the ground. And Ben, who actually has a crush on Beverly, snaps her out of it with a kiss, essentially. The Losers Club then battle Pennywise, who does his best to use their fears against him, but it doesn't work, and in the end, Pennywise begins to disintegrate before falling into the depths of the sewers. Anyway, sometime after this, the Losers Club has a final goodbye before swearing a blood oath to return to Derry should it ever resurface, which of course leads on to Chapter 2, which is going to be the next movie. So, having looked over the story, given a brief rundown of the story of it, so my opinion of this movie is pretty much, well, it's brilliant. There wasn't a single frame of this movie I didn't enjoy, and I must admit that when I find out they're doing a remake of it, I was more than a little bit skeptical that they wouldn't be able to pull it off, because I was afraid they were going to fall into that trap that a lot of filmmakers fall into when they adapt a novel, where they make alterations that aren't necessary. They change. They change things which are based more upon their own personal bias and their own personal ideas about how the story should unfold, rather than staying true to the story. But I'm very happy to say that this is one of the times they did not make that mistake. The only alterations they made were ones that were absolutely necessary and needed to update the story to have a more modern horror flavor, while at the same time staying true to the core essence of the book, which I think is an absolutely the right way to adapt a novel to the screen. Make the changes that are needed, but don't base them on, how you think the story should unfold if it detracts from the original story of the book. And thankfully, so in other words, what they did here is, the right way to adapt a story. This is how you do it, and they did it spectacularly. And I also recently read that It is considered to be one of the top horror movies of this year, which I actually disagree with. Not because I think the movie doesn't deserve that level of praise, because it does. This movie deserves all the praise it gets. It is just a magnificent movie. But and in fact, it's actually one of the two best horror movies I've seen this year. The other one, of course, being Annabelle Creation. But the reason why I disagree with this statement is because I don't think that it is not only the best horror movie of 2017. I think that this is one of the best horror movies, period. I think what we have here is a movie that's destined to become a classic in horror movie history. It's everything you could want from a movie. There's fear in there, of course, but there's also humor and drama, and it's full of great character moments. And every performance was absolutely top-notch. The cinematography was excellent. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And apparently there's a director's cut slated for release, and which is something I'm intensely looking forward to. I'm really going to enjoy watching that. So, all things considered, the 2017 version of It gets a well-earned 5 stars from me, and I highly recommend you go check this movie out. Trust me, it is worth it. It is an absolute masterpiece, in my opinion. Okay, now that the review's out of the way, let's move on to the next part of this video, which is my Dreamcast for Chapter 2. Now, before I show you who my choices are for who I think would be perfect to play the Losers Club in Chapter 2, allow me to tell you why I've made these choices. I actually deliberately looked for actors who were not only very good and very talented performers, but I also tried to find people who actually resembled the kids from the first movie. I wanted to find people who looked as much like them as possible. Now, obviously, I couldn't find anyone who looks exactly what these kids would look like 27 years after the fact, because, that'd be impossible. But the actors I've chosen, I think, are close enough in resemblance that you could believe they could be the same people 27 years later. Okay? So, now that's out of the way, let's take a look at my Dreamcast, shall we? I'll start with Ben McKenzie, who is my choice for Bill Denbrough. And the reason why I chose him is because I think he would be the best actor to portray the leadership quality that that Bill has in the first movie, and also the steadfast determination that he has in the first in Chapter 1. Because I've seen his work in Gotham, and he has that in spades, so I think he could definitely play that role. Next, I like talking about my choice for Beverly, and that would be Lauren Cohen. And the reason why I choose her is, once, because of, I think she looks quite a lot like the actress who plays Beverly in the first film, and also because I think she could really play Beverly's strength and her fearlessness, particularly when you see, if you've ever seen her work in The Walking Dead, you'll understand what I mean. And also, a few people I've told this to have criticized this choice because they say that she's too young to play the role. But the thing is, I actually did some background checking, and Miss Cohen here is actually 35, and in the book, Beverly is actually 38. And so that's only a few years off the mark. I mean, so it's hardly like she's too young to play the role at all, so she's close enough. So that's why I think she'd be my choice for Beverly. My choice for Ben Hanscom would be Chris Pratt. Now, this is based on a few other Dreamcast choices I've seen, and also partly because of the physical resemblance, but also because I think he could really portray the the heart of Ben, because Ben in the first movie, he's just like a really nice, friendly guy. He's this guy you could just talk to and get along with. He's just, the nicest guy in the world. And I think Chris Pratt could definitely play that. I'm also aware of the fact that maybe I'm aiming a little bit too high with this actor, because I'm aware that Chris Pratt has actually become fairly big in Hollywood ever since Guardians of the Galaxy. And so it's possible they may not be available for it, but I think he'd be really good if they get him. Okay, so next, is my choice for Mike Hanlon, and that would be Jordan Peele. Now, I chose this, one, because of physical resemblance, also because I've seen this choice in a few other Dreamcast videos seen, which I absolutely agree with. But the other reason is because while he is a very funny comedian, I've seen him work in Key and Peele and a few other things, and he is just a really, really funny guy. But I think it'd be very interesting to see what his take on a more dramatic role would be. Because we've seen other comedians take dramatic roles in the past, like the late, great Robin Williams, for example. He occasionally did dramatic roles. And also Jim Carrey has done that a couple of times. So I think he'd be a fairly good choice for Mike. And my next choice for Richie Tozier would be Bill Hader. Once again, because for the same reason why I choose Jordan Peele, because I'd like to see him do a dramatic role. I think it'd be interesting to see what his take on Richie 27 years after his first encounter it would be. I think that could be very entertaining to watch. My next choice would be for Eddie Kaspbrak, and that is Giovanni Ribisi. Now, I choose him because this guy is just a really talented actor. We've all seen him in a lot of roles. And I think he's definitely actor enough to play this character. But the other reason why I choose him is because I think he's been treated a little bit unfairly in the past. Because while he's a very talented actor, he tends to slip under the radar a bit. I mean, I know it's because he's a supporting actor. He very rarely does leading roles. But it's just that this guy is so talented and so good at what he does. I think he deserves a lot more recognition. So that's the reason why Giovanni here would be my choice for Eddie. Sorry. And last but not least, my choice for Stan Uris, and that would be Adrian Brody. And I chose him because, well, if you've ever seen Adrian Brody work, he's brilliant. Every time this man acts, he pulls it off. He is just a really, really solid, good actor. So, I can think of no one better than him to portray Stan Uris than him. Once again, as with Chris Pratt, I'm aware of the fact I could be aiming a bit high there because he's also a very big-name actor, and he's very much in demand, so it's possible that he might not be able to do it. But if they could get him, and if he was interested in playing the role, I think he'd be really good as Stan Uris. Okay, so, well, that's pretty much it, really. That's my review for It Chapter 1 and my Dreamcast for Chapter 2. And, well, if any of you have got anything to say about it, if you've got an opinion about who you would get to play the Losers Club in Chapter 2 that differ from mine, by all means let me know. I'd like to hear what your opinion is. I'd love to hear from you. And if you've got anything to say about my review or express your own opinions about this movie, also, feel free to comment. And on the off chance that anyone out there who is responsible for making this movie, like if the filmmakers or any of the actors are watching this review, I know that's highly unlikely, but if you are, I just want to say, well done. Well done indeed. You guys really tore up this movie, and you have my absolute respect for it. You did a fantastic job, so congratulations. All right, then. That's pretty much it, really. So, well, until next time, this is AP Darkness, signing off. Hail and farewell.